Richard Sherman has decided to chime in on the Monday Morning Quarterback. He's a really, really good writer. Have you seen some of Richard Sherman's work? I mean, he's great.
No, but I read a thing he wrote at Stanford, where they have this thing at Stanford in the dorm rooms where they wake the freshmen up at like 6 in the morning and make them go outside and do some nonsense.
Sure, yeah.
It's like it's a Stanford tradition, and then a bunch of people complained. Upperclassmen, I think, complained because they're like, hey, I have an exam and you do this stupid thing. And then Sherman wrote an email about how dumb the complaints were and that this is a tradition. And it was funny. It was funny as hell. Yeah,
okay. I'll have to find it. However, this was not funny. This was pretty damn serious. But the way that he wrote it, again, was just brilliant. So basically, he's discussing how DeSean Jackson is being painted in a negative light because of so-called gang ties and whatnot. So here are a few excerpts, and then we will react via the Monday Morning Quarterback, mmqb.com. I look at those words, gang ties, and I think about all the players I've met in the NFL and all of us who come from inner city neighborhoods like mine in LA. And I wonder how many of us could honestly say we're not friends with guys doing the wrong things. I can't. Those men with DeSean in the social pictures and the police reports weren't his closet friends in childhood. But when his father died and a few people were there for him, they were there. When a tragic event like that happens, the people who are around are the people who are around. And they were there for him. So that's one part. Your reaction is what?
My reaction is that Richard Sherman is totally right, but we shouldn't even have to really defend it.
Defend what exactly?
DeSean Jackson shouldn't have to defend himself. After you read that story and you realize that DeSean Jackson was acquainted with one guy accused in a horrible murder of a 14-year-old kid on a bicycle who flashed the wrong gang signs. That guy was charged, the friend of DeSean Jackson, and then, I don't know how relevant this is, I feel like it's pretty relevant, he was acquitted, right? So I don't think DeSean Jackson was meant to show disrespect to the family of the kid who was killed. I think he was standing up for his friend, who again was acquitted. So there's a chump chance he didn't do it. Now maybe that guy may well have been in the gang. I don't know. And he put pictures up on Instagram and Facebook. And I guess when there's a murder charge, like Richard Sherman saying that Michael Crabtree is a sorry-ass player, don't say that. Not a big deal. Doesn't mean you're a terrible guy, as Richard Sherman acknowledged. Not my finest moment.
Right.
And DeSean Jackson probably, for a murder suspect, shouldn't be putting up pictures on Instagram because it seems disrespectful to this horrible tragedy.
Yes.
But that said,
but it's different when you have a connection and a history with someone.
It is different, but it also, none of that makes you a gang member. None of those things make you a gang member.
Right.
It's just behavior that you think a more mature person would not do. Keep in mind, these guys are incredibly young.
Right.
So that's the first thing, is that, and the article and the way whoever pitched that article ends up making it seem as, here's another black guy in the NFL who's involved with these kind of people, and you just think gang related, and the association will be, he's gangy. And then they talk about that he flashed gang signals at D'Angelo Hall during that season opener this year, which was the other accusation he made. So I don't know. And then the other case was a building in LA owned by Jackson where a murder took place. But I mean, he wasn't there. He wasn't in town. It had nothing to do with that. It's like, I mean, we don't. When
we have a right to, like the police and everyone else has a right to investigate, but we should not say that he absolutely was involved, even though it took place in his facility.
It's not, again, not in a story that suggests that he has gang connections. That doesn't mean you have a gang connection, and it feeds this sort of racial stereotyping. We just did a segment on the worst owner in pro sports, Dan Snyder. Among the second worst owners, although he's clearly gotten a little better merely by the success of the team, is Donald Sterling, the guy who owns the Clippers, who's a slumlord. I wager a murder he owns a ton of buildings. I don't know, so forgive me. I'm going to guess that a crime has been committed in those buildings. But nobody talks about how Donald Sterling has gang connections, and they never would, even if there were a gang murder in one of those.
Because he owns plenty of buildings.
Right, so it's so stupid. And then, and another factor of that story was initial reports about that DeSean Jackson had $250,000 stolen from him in his house, which suggests, again, that suggests nefarious activity. He was $250,000 in their house. He didn't. It was $20,000. That's a lot of money to have in the house. There have been times I've had that much money in the house where I had to pay a contractor, but like that was a day, right?
Yeah.
But whatever, $20,000 for a guy who wants to keep a lot of cash on hand, for a guy who makes that much money and probably likes to go out with his friends and have a great time and might blow through $10,000 in a night. Again, that doesn't make you in a gang, but put all those things together and you build this case that there's something wrong with DeSean Jackson, as opposed to the things which seem very clearly to be wrong with DeSean Jackson, which is that at times he can be a super pain in the ass teammate.
Sure, and reports have obviously indicated that he clashes with coaches verbally and whatnot. But
right,
okay,
but that's not
preparation. But here's getting back on topic. When we talk about gang ties, remember Corral Buckhalter? I covered this yesterday in a piece I did. Remember Corral Buckhalter was with Brian Westbrook with the Eagles? They had a
From Nebraska. He
very solid team.
He did either two things every year: tore his ACL, or fumbled in a critical situation. That was, and then in between, he'd carry the ball 17 times for 140 yards. And he'd be like, "Holy shit, Corral Buckhalter's solid!" And then he'd tear up his knee or fumble.
They had a solid duo right there in the backfield. But here's the thing: when we talk about gang ties, his brother is like in prison for murder. So he has gang ties,
right?
Because he just happens to be in the situation where his brother committed a crime, so technically he's linked, even though he didn't do anything.
Woody Harrelson's dad is a hitman, killed a federal judge.
Yeah,
yeah,
gang ties.
Right. Woody Harrelson is because it's a hitman. Woody Harrelson tied to organized crime.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry.
He has mob ties, not gang ties.
I apologize.
Yeah, but it's crazy, right?
Continuing on, Richard Sherman on Riley Cooper. This offseason, they re-signed a player who was caught on video screaming, "I will fight every N-word in here." I don't say the N-word ever in pieces, by the way. People have asked about that. He was representing the Eagles when he said it because, of course, everything we do is reflective of the organization. But what did they do to Riley Cooper, who, if he's not a racist, at least has, quote, ties to racist activity? They fined him and sent him to counseling. No suspension necessary for Cooper, and no punishment from the NFL, despite its new interest in policing our use of the N-word on the field. Riley, instead, got a few days off from training camp and a nice contract in the offseason, too.
Yeah, well, he had a nice year.
Yeah, he did. He did. And now he's a pivotal point in their offense with DeSean Jackson gone. Yeah.
So, look, those things aren't the same, and of course, the use of a word is not. Let's pretend that all things are true. We know the thing is true about Riley Cooper.
Yes.
If you did have actual ties to a gang.
Link in the description, by the way. We covered that. Yep.
If you did have ties to a gang, significant ties to a gang that was involved in the murder of a 14-year-old child, it's a lot worse than
saying the N-word.
Even
saying the N-word's bad, but like
it's hideous.
Murder.
Saying the word is bad, and what Riley Cooper did was hideous. His apology, which Richard Sherman leads out, was outstanding.
You thought so?
Yeah, it was really solid.
Okay.
But
we grade apologies a lot. I'm skeptical of a lot of apologies.
It was very good. That said, he did do it, and he appeared to be accepted back by a number of his black teammates. One of the nice things that Mike Vick did was stand up big time for Riley Cooper.
Mike Vick also knew that he had to be a team leader because his job was in jeopardy.
It didn't seem like it felt that. He didn't,
No, not at all?
To me, that seemed legitimate.
Okay. What was the guy's name? Kerry Williams. That's who fought him in practice. On Jim Irsay. Look at the way many in the media wrote about Jim Irsay after his DUI arrest. Nobody suggested the Colts owner, quote, had ties to drug trafficking, even though he was caught driving he was caught driving with controlled substances, prescription pills, and $29,000 in cash to do who knows what with.
He had more money in his car.
Hang on. Instead, poor millionaire Mr. Irsay needs help, some wrote.
Yeah, Jim Irsay had more money in his car than DeSean Jackson had stolen from his house.
Mm-hmm. So what does that say, Mr. Mankiewicz?
What it says is that we're very comfortable with, when people talk about, you don't have to use the N-word to be a racist, or to be, racist is so loaded, to use negative racial language, as we like to say in the Young Turks, to be racialist. Not quite racist, but racialist.
Yeah.
And, nobody talks about white guys being involved in organized crime or with gang ties, or the phrase thug culture, which came out suddenly with Richard Sherman, who was this, couldn't be less of a thug, right? But the language matters. And when people use that language, they use it about black guys because they're comfortable with it. And it suggests a certain kind of thing that makes a lot of white people uncomfortable. And it all makes them uncomfortable.
Why, though?
Why does it make them uncomfortable?
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of it, because it's different, and it's a threat to the things that they know and love, and a threat to they think to their safety, because it's so different. And and that's as old as since there have been people that we've. And look, this is a country that until 1865 enslaved black people, and until 1965 barred them by law from voting.
Yep.
So it's not that, and that's not that long. That's 49 years ago. There are people who lived through that. So it's getting better. Yeah. And by the way, this isn't to say that there aren't black players who act like fools, and again act foolishly, act like idiots, and should be described as acting like idiots. But they don't act like idiots because of the pigmentation of their skin.
Well put.
So and that all, to me, always gets to it. Do you honestly think that someone is behaving a certain way because of the different tone in their skin that causes behavior to be different?
No.
No, of course not. But when you put it that way, it becomes as silly as it is. And so there are probably football players who have ties to gangs, but we should only refer to those players as football players with gang ties, and not when we're trying to do a character assassination to get off the hook with fans to justify releasing a player that you want to jettison because he's a legitimate pain in the ass, which seems to be the case with DeSean Jackson. He's a pain in the ass.
If you want to read the rest of the article, by the way, mmqb.com, or you can check out the link in the description below. Very well put.